You look fresh. New paint, fresh buzz cuts, armor still clean. Not a scar or dent between you. Don't worry, I'm not here to haze you. Those days are behind me. Figured you could use something a little stronger than CAF to keep your heads up in this place. Name Stone, CT2209. Used to go by the number, back when we thought we were all the same. These days though, I wear the name I earned. Been with the 212th since the first dust off on Geonosis. I've done my time. Sieges, stealth drops, blackouts, no return ops, all of it. Couple too many missions with Cody. Even more bodies we didn't have time to bury. Now they got me on mess hall rotation. Morale duties, they said. Like troopers need a pep talk while chewing protein bricks. I'm not here to inspire anyone. I've been around long enough to know the reports don't tell the whole story. Some things get left out on purpose. Now, eat your rations and keep your mouth shut. Because there's things we ran into out there, things we weren't trained to fight. Mimban. Place will clog your lungs and eat your boots. I've been dropped on worse planets, sure, but never one that felt wrong from the first step. We were sent in after a forward listening post cut contact. One of ours, standard 10-man squad doing recon sweeps and SEPI signal intercepts. The last transmission was a simple position ping. Then, nothing. Comms blackout can mean a dozen things. Bad weather, terrain interference, sabotage. Command didn't say much, just handed us a recovery brief and told us to get eyes on sight. We sat down a few hundred meters out. The trenches looked untouched, barricades in place, mounted E-webs still secured, and there were no signs of a fight, not even damage. Inside the perimeter, we found gear still stowed, ammo sealed, rations unopened, power cells stacked and charged. And on a crate near the barracks, 5 helmets. Lined up neatly, side by side, like someone had placed them there. They were just waiting. We did a full sweep. Bunk room was clean, the beds were made, the lockers were shut, the weapons in racks, no sign of a rush, no sign of any last stand. The whole place looked like it was ready for inspection, but the troopers were gone. Nothing looked stolen, nothing looked broken, but the squad was missing like they'd just stepped out of their armor and walked off into the trees. We couldn't find any sort of trail leading out, no recent movement in or out, just old trench muck and the kind of silence that makes you check your rifle more than once. Then we heard something. Metal, a tap, like someone striking Durasteel with a sidearm, off to our left, just past the comms tent. We called it out, circled wide. Nothing. Then the same sound again, closer this time. Same rhythm, not like footsteps, like something was signaling. We pulled back toward the center line, standard regroup. Our comms tech tried to re-establish contact with command, and we barely got a carrier signal. No response. That's when Jex, our rear scout, sank. One step, and he was gone waist deep in the mud. Fast. Too fast. He shouted. We hauled him out with 2 other men and a tether. When he came up, he was shaking like hell. Said something grabbed him. Grabbed. We checked his armor. Scratches all across the thigh plates. Pressure gouges, like fingers had dug in and held. That's when we moved to evac. We'd seen enough. We pulled back toward the drop zone. Rain was heavier now. The kind that turns jungle ground into soup. Every step felt like it was trying to pull you under. As we reached the perimeter again, I saw one of the helmets. It wasn't on the crate anymore. It was upright in the mud, like someone had placed it there to watch us leave. One of our men, Cutter, looked back. I told him to keep moving. He didn't. I turned around a second later, and he was gone. Just gone. No screen. We searched, briefly, and then the sound came back again. Closer. The same metal tapping, following us. We didn't wait for it to show itself. Gunship pulled us out 20 minutes later, and command didn't ask for details. Site was reclassified, the outpost was never reactivated. Far as I know, it's still there, still empty and still listening. Geonosis. Second drop, not the first. That one's in the hollows. This one didn't get a name. Midway through the campaign, we were tasked with a cleanup op. Reinforce the southern ridge, sweep the lower tunnel system for surviving droid factories. We were running short on everything. Fuel, Bacta, patience. Days blurred. Nights shorter than they should have been. Half our squad hadn't slept in 2 rotations. We dropped at dusk. Sky was that burnt orange haze Geonosis is so proud of. Air full of dust and static. Mission was relatively simple. Push into the lower cave network, clear the passage, set charges, pull back. Didn't go that way, of course. First few clicks went smooth. Tunnels were dry, mostly cleared. Whatever the Seps had down there before, we figured we were too late. Place looked absolutely dead. We kept pushing though. By the 4th chamber, everything changed. We hit a pocket of heat. It wasn't on the scanners or anything like that, it was in the air, like stepping into breath that didn't belong to you. Then came the sound, echoes. We'd walk, stop, count to 3, then another step would echo, 1 too many. We chalked it up to bounce back. Acoustics in the caves were weird, but the deeper we got, the more it kept happening. We passed a shaft where the walls were black, like something had tunneled through with heat. Just smooth, dark stone all the way down. That's when Den stepped out of line. He was our scout for that mission. He stopped at the edge of that shaft, stared down for a long time, wouldn't enter comms. Then he mentioned something out loud. He said, "They're still digging." Then he jumped. We scrambled to the edge and it was just black. We hadn't even heard the thud of his body hitting the ground. We sent a cable drone and it unraveled for 40 meters, then cut out. Cable came back clean. Nothing on it, no trace of him. We just kept moving because what else were we gonna do? Cave walls got tighter, stone started looking less like rock and more like design. Etched lines, curves, patterns that didn't feel Geonosian. At one bend, we found a cavity, looked like a room, half natural, half cut into the wall. Inside, there were 3 clone helmets, burned, fused to the floor. We didn't recognize the markings. They weren't from our battalion. One still had a voice amp running, a faint feedback loop. It was transmitting, same rhythm every time. One of our boys, Brel, started to repeat it. Didn't even realize he was doing it, just tapping his trigger finger against his thigh. Click, click, click. We pulled him off recon duty. That's when things got worse. Our path back out, gone. Literally, wall collapse. Stone looked fused, like it had been heat sealed while we were inside. We rerouted, burned charges to make new space. And in that new space, more helmets. Faceplates up, looking at the ceiling. Brel stopped tapping his leg. Just stood still, said he could hear him. He could hear him breathing. We tried pulling him out, but he fought back, full strength. We had to stun him. He stayed down, mumbling. Said they weren't clones anymore. Said something inside the helmets had been wearing the bodies. We left a beacon, marked the position and dragged Brel out. On the way back, we lost Zane. 1 second he was walking behind me, the next, nothing. We scanned every meter, no sign. But in my visor, I got a blip for half a second. Armor tag, Zane, 50 meters below us, in the stone. Then it vanished. We reached extraction 3 hours later, and Brel never spoke again. They assigned him to medbay, said it was neural trauma from heatstroke, only he didn't look sick, he looked empty. Next rotation, the caves got sealed, entire sector marked unstable. We asked for the report, but they said it was cleared. No survivors found, no trace of any missing troopers. But sometimes, if you scan that sector, you'll still pick up movement. They say Geonosis is secure, but we knew better. We left something down there, or maybe we brought something back. But don't worry, it's not gonna happen to you, rookie. There was this canyon out in the outer sector. Don't ask me which planet, I don't remember. Some brown rock on the edge of nowhere. Hot in the day, freezing at night, wind that never stops. You couldn't get 2 steps without sand grinding in your helmet seal. The assignment was simple though, terrain recon and signal tracing. Some lab rat from the tech division needed field data on line of sight communications through uneven geography. Didn't explain why it had to be a live team, probably didn't care. They dropped us in low, 5 of us, small team, light packs, limited exposure, in and out. First 2 days were standard. We logged ridge lines, set up mini relays, punched in seismic data. One of the boys, Cutter, started logging some static bleed on Republic channels. But nothing dangerous, just noise. You know how that stuff is, always something buzzing in the background. Weather, old tech, ghost loops. Weirdly though, he kept getting pieces of the same phrase. One signal fragment would say, wait. Another, hours later, don't. Then finally, leave. Never together, never repeated, always out of order. We figured it was a busted relay tower leaking old battle chatter, something from a different squad stuck in loop. Field tech's dream and command's problem. Then we saw the figures. Happened on the 3rd day. I was on Overwatch, scoping west for our next camp position. There was a ledge maybe 2 clicks out, and just for a second, I saw 3 figures walking along it. Clone armor, right spacing, correct formation, but it was off. I scanned for tags and I got nothing, no life signs, nothing, just shapes. I called it out. Boys checked their scopes, nothing there. I kept watching and they moved behind a ridge. We packed up and pushed out. Had to check it. That's what you do, you verify. We hiked the whole ridge and there were no prints. No footprints, no displaced dust, literally nothing. Just a few pebbles still settling like someone had just passed through. That night, Cutter saw someone standing at our old camp, back across the basin. Said it looked like Breck. Full armor, standard posture, just standing there, not moving. Problem was, Breck was with us, right here, eating a helmet off. So we all looked, and yeah, there was something there. One silhouette staring our way. By the time we crossed the basin, there was nothing. No trace of anyone ever being there. Just our camp, untouched. Cutter swore it looked at him. That's when the sleepwalking started. He got up on my shift, walked out of the tent with full armor but no gear. Just started walking, and he didn't say a word. I followed, quiet, and let him lead. He walked to the edge of the ridge and stood there. Didn't do anything. I waited maybe 10 minutes. Then he turned and walked back. Didn't say a thing, went back into the tent and laid down. Next morning, I asked if he remembered, and he didn't. He looked tired, eyes heavy, like he hadn't actually slept. Later that day, Breck went missing. We'd stopped to eat, and Breck said he was going to check our comm sync. Walked 50 meters up a ridge, and he never came back. Just gone. We searched for hours, we spread out, used short-range pings, we got nothing. Closest thing to a clue, a cracked visor plate, left in the dirt near his last known position. We tried to call for evac, and command didn't respond. Checked the relay and it was all green, the beacon was live, but nothing came back. We sent coordinates again and again, no response. Eventually, we stopped trying. We turned east, started making for high ground. Figured if we got a better signal line, they'd hear us or see us. But something was off about the way the terrain kept shifting. Our nav maps didn't match what we saw. Ridges too close, rock formations we'd already passed, again. One of the boys said it felt like we were walking in circles, but we weren't. The sun was shifting like normal, shadows moved, only the land didn't seem to care. Every few hours, Cutter started mumbling again. Things like, they know the way, or we're not synced. He didn't make sense. He said he could hear someone calling to him. Said they sounded like us. He stopped eating, stopped responding to his name, just stared out past the horizon like he was waiting for something to show up. One night, he stood up and walked again. I stopped him and asked where he was going. He said, I'm late. I asked, for what? He said, for debrief. That's when I realized his ID tag had changed. I looked down at my wrist pad trying to log his vitals and his designation was blank. We moved camp that night, set up under a stone overhang, and I let the rest sleep. Took full watch. At some point, I saw movement beyond the firelight. Clones. Dozens of them. standing, still watching. Their armor wasn't ours. It was the wrong color and it was way too clean. Then I blinked and they were gone. Didn't wake the others. Next morning, Cutter was gone. Same as Breck. No sound, no gear missing, no footprints. Just his helmet set neatly beside his bedroll, like he left it for us to find. That was the last day. We kept walking and eventually found a tower. It didn't look Republic. Old build, half buried, but it had power. 3 lights on a panel inside. Red, red, green. They blinked for a while, then stopped, one by one. Then the console shut off. A minute later, command came through, said evac inbound. No mention of the blackout, no reason for the delay. Suddenly, they could read us fine. When the gunship landed, I boarded with 2 others. Pilot looked at me and said, "Where's the rest?" I said, "There is no rest." After debrief, Decon ran us through standard scans, said we were clear, then said something about the tower. Turns out, it was part of a stealth drone program, experimental. The tech said the drone had gone missing a week before we landed. Its cloak field had failed mid-flight, scrambled its beacon signal and started broadcasting null waves across the canyon. They said it was harmless, said it was a navigation disruption effect caused by overlapping stealth pulses. Said it could disorient sensor pings, but it couldn't hurt anyone. They also said our deployment logs were corrupted, showed only 3 troopers deployed. I asked about Cutter, about Breck. They said those names didn't appear in our squad assignment, said it must have been a reporting error. 5 troopers went in, 3 came out, no record of the rest. But not everything that pulls your squad apart is ghost stories and glitchy gear. Sometimes it's just something big and hungry. Well, now I'm hungry. I'll be right back. Gonna get some more chow. Now look, out of all the places I've been, I definitely do not want to return to Ryloth, no matter how smoking those Twi'lek ladies might be. We'd been tasked with installing new seismic sensor arrays buried deep in one of the southern canyons on Ryloth. Deep cut, unstable rock, rarely mapped. Command was worried about separatist tunnel work, thought they were sneaking armor beneath the cliffs, bypassing our scouts. So they flew us in low, dropped us with a drill rig, a portable relay, and 5 days worth of supplies. Day 1 was routine. Find the site, lower the rig, bolt it in, connect the uplink. By dusk, 3 arrays were live and humming. We sat around the last one, eating ration bars. The ground vibrated faintly, like the planet was breathing. I thought it was just the drill cooling off. Then Jensen froze. He was about 50 meters out, checking the final uplink on the edge of the ridge, called in low over comms. "Sarge, you feel that?" I stepped up beside him, and at first I thought it was wind, but underfoot, there was a tremor, rhythmic, 3 beats a minute, too slow for machinery. Before we could react, the sand beneath Jensen collapsed. I screamed, "Watch it," but it was too late. He vanished up to his waist in a sudden sinkhole. We yanked him back with his faceplate cracked and one claw-shaped gouge in his shoulder plate. Looked like he'd been dragged for a moment, then dropped back. No other damage. Jensen coughed sand, tried to shake it off, swore something tried to pull him deeper. We moved camp back a click, threw a safety perimeter in the sand, set repulsor stakes around our tents and gear. That night, I took watch. The wind died around midnight, and everything went still. Then came the sound, a distant thump, like a massive heartbeat. Jensen woke the others. We scanned with our handhelds, nothing on thermal, no shape moving. Then another thump, closer, underneath. We grabbed rifles and flashes, followed the rhythm down the canyon floor. Sand slid under each step, giving way like water. In the glow of my flasher, I saw drag lines, deep grooves in the sand leading toward one of the active arrays. We decided to investigate the array. Halfway there, Rix froze. His boots sunk further than the rest. He yanked free, shouting about claws scraping at his armor. We all backed off, checked his plates, 2 parallel scratches along his thigh. Enemy fire would shatter the ceramic. This looked organic. We converged on the array and it stood silent, its light pulsing green. Around it, The sand was churned as if something had fought to rip it out. Then we saw them. Bite marks. Huge, jagged teeth impressions at the array's base. Metal bent inward, almost swallowed. We set charges to collapse the site, hoping to bury whatever was down there. As we backed away, the tremor spiked. Sand blasted upward in a plume, like the beast was clearing its throat. We sprinted toward our extraction point, alarms blaring on our belts. Behind us, the canyon floor gaped, then cracked further. A roar shook the walls. We made the gunship by seconds. The pilot pulled up hard, rode a downwash, kicking sand into a mini-storm. From above, we saw it. 2 mounds shifting miles apart, sand sliding off them like flesh. Then it sank back out of sight. Command filed it under environmental instability and equipment malfunction. Sensors overloaded, array structural failure. They ordered the canyon sealed and marked no deploy. No mention of claw marks or roars, no report of missing armor fragments. And on our scanners, when we looped back later, still a faint tremor, 3 beats a minute, consistent, like a heartbeat. And sometimes, when the wind dies on Ryloth at night, you can feel it through the ground, a warning that something huge is still down there, hungry, waiting for the next drill. I'm gonna need a drink before we continue. Any Jawa juice in this mess hall? It was supposed to be a clean drop. Night op, canyon insert, tactical relay, snatch and grab. We loaded up at dusk, standard flight pattern, 2 LAATs, 9 per transport, quiet ride, no chatter, just the sound of boots against metal and a long hum in the air. Then we hit the wall. Didn't see it coming. Burst of white light through the cockpit, alarms screaming, hull snapped sideways, heat, sparks, tailspin. We crashed. I woke up under part of the side door, couldn't move my left arm, helmet was cracked. The rest of the squad was scattered, some screaming, some not breathing. Pilot was gone. Front half of the transport was just missing. There were 3 of us who could still walk. 2 more were alive, but hurt bad. And no signal, no ping from the second transport, just static. Every channel, every band. We rigged a stretcher for Cano. His leg was nearly gone. Knew he wouldn't make it, but he was still conscious. Kept saying, they'll find us. They have to. We set up inside a collapsed supply container near the wreck. Not much cover, but better than the open. Night fell fast. Too fast. Sky above us was dead quiet, and the sound of static hissing soft in our ears. No hostiles came, no droids, no wildlife, just the wind and the flicker of our helmets trying to find a signal that wasn't there. Second night, Wreck started pacing, said it was a test. Command wanted to see how long we'd hold out without direction. Third night, Cano stopped breathing, just exhaled and didn't inhale again. We took his helmet off, he looked calm, like he'd accepted something we hadn't yet. Fourth day, water ran low. Rex started taking apart his rifle, said if we jammed the power cell into the beacon, we could boost the signal. Didn't work, just made the beacon spark and burn out. By then, we were just trying to make contact with anyone. Even a droid signal would have meant we still existed, but there was absolutely nothing. Fifth day, I started to wonder if we'd been written off. It happens. Wrong grid gets filed, command shifts zones. Next wave comes in before the dust settles. No one checks the logs close enough. And just like that, you're a ghost. By the 7th day, Rek wasn't sleeping. He'd sit out on the rock at night, watching the sky. He said he could hear voices in the static. I didn't hear it, but I didn't tell him he was wrong. 8th morning, I woke up and he was gone. Took his helmet and nothing else. Left his ID chip by the wreck. Didn't even try to hide it. I think that was his way of saying goodbye. Or maybe his way of making sure someone, somewhere, would know he'd been real. I stayed one more night. Then I walked. Didn't know where, didn't care, just wanted to move. About 4 clicks out, a Republic gunship buzzed overhead. First noise I'd heard in days that wasn't my own breathing. I fired a flare. They didn't stop, didn't even blink. I kept walking, Took another 3 days before I reached an outpost. Small fire base, nothing fancy. Their tech said I wasn't on any manifest, said no drops were scheduled for that grid, no casualties reported, no gunships lost. I asked about the second transport. They said it landed fine, completed the mission, said the zone had been jammed for 2 days straight, command's fault. Someone green flipped the signal blockers too early. We were already in the air when they cut us off. They didn't know we were down until after it ended. Didn't have time to look, didn't think we made it, didn't even search. 9 went in and 1 walked out. The rest, still there. Anyway, make sure you check your gear before the next drop. You never know when command will forget you're even breathing. Now, this next one wasn't even a war zone, just a training facility buried in the dirt where no one was supposed to die. Edge of the core, cold world, underground compound. One of those unmarked bases they used to prep clone squads for live combat simulation. We got called in because something went quiet. It was supposed to be a rotation for cadets, a dozen trainees, 3 instructors, full suite of training droids, sealed scenario rooms, observation deck, hard-coded AI. They missed their first daily check-in. Command tried the override channel, nothing. Sent another team, and they didn't report back either. That's when we got the order. Drop in, eyes on, recover data, no engagement unless confirmed hostile. We landed at night and the facility looked pretty normal. No signs of breach, exterior sealed, lights on, power green. The front doors opened for us. That should have been the first red flag. It just opened. No codes, no ID scans, nothing. Inside was silent. Clean floors, no debris in sight, no damage as far as the eye can see. We split into pairs, started clearing halls. Every few meters, we'd hear movements, but nothing ever showed itself. Then, we reached the first kill room, one of the scenario chambers, and the door was open. Inside were 7 bodies. Clone cadets, full armor, all killed with training rounds. Stun bolts, non-lethal impact zones, except they were dead. 3 had neck trauma, 2 were slumped in a corner, hands still raised. We checked the logs. System showed the simulation was still running, over 43 hours. Training droids were marked as adaptive AI units, modified for advanced unpredictability, whatever that means. Then we saw it. One of the droids standing in the far corner, inert, head tilted, gun lowered. We moved in slow. Bob kicked it over. Thing didn't move. So we turned to leave, and that's when it opened fire. 3-round burst, tight grouping. Would have taken Ricks in the throat if I hadn't pulled him down. We lit it up, point blank. Still no alarm, still no system shutdown. And that's when I realized the scenario timer hadn't reset. It was still running. We pulled back to the observation deck, glass wall looking into the chamber. Room was dark now, lights had shut off behind us, but we saw them moving. 3 droids, Republic-built training rigs, but they moved like they'd practiced. Cover to cover, stack and breach, leapfrogging across the chamber. One looked up at the glass. Didn't have a face, but I swear it looked. We locked the door, started accessing the core terminal. System said, live program active, listed all units as engaged combatants. Every clone in the building was still flagged as part of the scenario, even us. Then, the lights went out. Whole facility went red, low battery backup. Emergency seals engaged. Doors locked. We started hearing droids on the move and we ran for the exit. It didn't open automatically this time. System rerouted all access to instructor override only. Only one instructor ID still pinged as active. We found him in the server room, neck snapped, eyes still open. But his chip was gone, cut clean out of his arm. That's what the system was reading. We destroyed the console, forced the doors, and 2 more droids tried to flank us in the hangar. We dropped them, fast. But they didn't fight like the simulations. They hesitated, waited for us to move. One even ducked when I fired. Not dodged, ducked, like it knew what a rifle was, like it knew where I was aiming. We got out and briefed command. They said the training AI had been in test phase, a slicer-enhanced combat analysis tool designed to make the droids less predictable. They said it went rogue after a memory leak during a firmware push. No one knew how far the AI rewrote its own logic tree. Facility was wiped 2 days later. Fire protocol, total sterilization. All logs gone. We weren't even allowed to list the name of the planet in our report. But it didn't matter. I still remember how it moved, how it learned. System didn't break, it adapted. Definitely would have preferred the facilities on Camino over that one. I have great respect for the Jedi, even if some of them are, insufferable. I remember this one mission I did with Kenobi, that Jedi who's always on the holonet. We were on the 3rd day of the push, one of those dense city grinds where every street's another wall of fire and dust. He was with us, leading the forward spear with Cody and the heavy tanks. We were flanking a narrow lane choked with rubble. Cleared a squad of B2s on the left, made it to the edge of the square. That's when we got the call. Check the east structure. Intel thinks it's a holdout point. Looked like a collapsed courthouse. We went in, tight wedge. First floor was empty, debris, cracked walls, standard war rot. Second floor, that's where it changed. As soon as we stepped off the stairs, no sound. Not quiet, gone. Couldn't hear our own boots. Couldn't hear each other breathe. Even inside the helmet, nothing. No comms buzz, no static, just dead space. I tried to say something, nothing came out. We looked at each other wide-eyed, tense. Cern waved his arm, his mouth was moving. I couldn't hear it. I tapped my chest plate, nothing. Felt like my heartbeat wasn't even there. Then we noticed the lights, ceiling panels flickering in sync, a slow pulse, like a countdown. Cern moved to check the far door. He didn't make it. He collapsed, just dropped. We grabbed him, still breathing, eyes open, but gone, blank. We carried him down fast, rushed him into open air, and the moment we hit sunlight, sound came back like a wave crashing. Comms channels lit up, artillery booms, boots scrambling on Duracrete. And Cern started screaming. He didn't stop for minutes, he didn't remember anything. He just kept saying one thing over and over. We weren't there. Later, tech said it might have been a separatist disruptor, some kind of acoustic blackout field. Prototype, localized. But I remember how it felt. Not like we were going deaf, like we'd been cut out of the war for a minute. Just removed. Like the battle forgot we existed. And when it remembered, it didn't come back all the way. You guys like what you're hearing? Good. Now you know what you're in for. I remember this one time, weeks after the fighting, we'd just pulled out of the sector. Whole ridge had gone red. High casualties both sides. A push that never stuck. Command shifted attention to the next front, and that stretch of dirt became no man's land. Then, one morning, a beacon came online. Low band clone distress pulse. A weak, faint echo. But the ID it was broadcasting? Kern, a trooper from our squad. One of ours. Dead. We'd buried him ourselves. Caught a sniper round through the visor 3 weeks prior. We had the helmet, we had the body. But the signal was clean. Time-stamped. We brought it to Cody and he double-checked the logs, confirmed the burial. Said it must have been a misfire. Maybe another trooper picked up Kern's gear in the retreat, or some droid got a hold of a clone comm kit. Either way, it didn't sit right. He gave us clearance to check it. Just 4 of us, quick recon sweep, in and out. We took the slope at dawn, same ridge where we lost him. Funny how battlefields look similar after the smoke's gone. Less alive, less important. The signal pulled us toward the ruins of a comm relay, one we'd used for air support during the push. Now, it was barely standing. Half-melted Durasteel, antenna sheared in 2. The beacon was inside, buried under some collapsed decking tucked beneath a collapsed beam. We cleared it and found the signal booster, still blinking, and next to it was Kern's ID chip. It wasn't a copy or anything, It was his. We checked the serials and everything matched. Still intact, no signs of tampering, no burn marks. And the weird part? It wasn't transmitting the standard distress call. It was looping one word, standing, over and over. No unit number, no location code, just that word. We pulled the chip, packed the beacon, started hiking back to the LZ. Didn't say much. Then, Ripper, our spotter, stopped, pointed back toward the ridgeline. Said he saw a figure, standing still, mid-slope, facing the comm relay. I glassed it. Nothing. But the rocks there, they'd shifted, like someone had stood there for a while, long enough to melt the frost under their boots. We kept moving, didn't talk about it. Once we were back behind the perimeter, Cody met us at staging, took the gear to be logged, said he'd pass it along to the archivists, said not to think too hard about it. Beacons misfire, he said. Gear moves, happens all the time. Then he looked down at the chip in his hand, turned it over once, and pocketed it himself. Didn't give it to the quartermaster, didn't log it, just kept it. I think he remembered too, that Kern hadn't died alone. He'd been covering us, pinned on that ridge while we got evac. Took 3 shots and never fell back. Last thing he said on comms was, still holding. A true hero, that one. There was this one recon mission in a mountain pass somewhere in the Outer Rim. They said it'd be a quick one. Droid relays had been pinging up and down the ridgeline, tight packet transmissions, short burst intervals, little comm clusters bouncing data through the rock. Command wanted them stopped before they could hit open terrain on the other side. Standard 2 fireteam recon drop, 9 of us, enough to engage and disengage if things got hot, enough to stay quiet if they didn't. Terrain was steep, rough footing, loose shale, lots of vertical, real pain for armor. But visibility was solid, sky was clear, the air was thin, and it was good for scopes. We were about an hour in when Ferric picked up something strange on his HUD. IFF pin, clone designation. Off our path, near a lower ridge base and about 400 meters southeast. Our first reaction was that it was a friendly scout unit ahead of schedule. Maybe Command pushed another team through. But Command said no. We were the only ones in the sector. Could be a stuck signal, they said. Old gear transmitting false return. Then we saw the tag. CT2209. That's me. Ferric called it out like it was a joke. Then his voice dipped. It's transmitting active. We rechecked all our systems. Nothing was duplicated. No ID bleed. No ghost firmware. Just a clean beacon. Broadcasting my tag from somewhere I wasn't. We debated splitting. Our lead, Tamber, wasn't thrilled. Said we didn't deviate for tech glitches. But then, one of the boys, Dren, saw motion near the base of a rock wall. Clone armor, gone before he could scope it. We dropped into a tighter formation and moved to sweep the basin. The rocks were jagged, like broken teeth, old landslide debris, but there were signs of movement. Boot prints, standard issue clone tread, fresh, like someone had been pacing or waiting. Tamber ran a full scan, still broadcasting my tag, still active, still close. We spread out, line of sight 20 meters apart. That's when I got the voice, soft, staticky, 2 clicks on my life support loop, then holding position. My voice, my cadence. Ferric heard it too. We tried to triangulate it, but the direction kept shifting, north, then west, then gone. We started pulling back up to the ridge toward the rest of our team. As we climbed, Dren froze. There, he pointed across the gorge. 4 figures on the far ridge. Clones, armor clean, poses still. Same spacing as us, same posture. One raised a hand. Same signal I'd just used to call fallback. Then they turned, walked in the same direction we were facing, step for step. Ferric whispered, that looks like us. I tried to scope them, but glare off the ridge killed the view. Then the signal blinked again. CT2209, tagged about 15 meters behind our position. We spun, no one there, but I felt it, just for a second. Breathing, out of sync, like someone was matching our pace half a step behind. We moved fast, back uphill, rejoined the rest of the squad. We took 10, regrouped, everyone accounted for. Except the IFF tag was still blinking. Same ID, same position, right on top of us. Tamber ran an interference sweep. Low frequency clutter all over the place. Signal reflections bouncing off the canyon walls. Could have been tech garbage, could have been something else. That's when Brax collapsed. I was closest, rolled him over, pulled the helmet. His eyes were wide open and he was breathing shallow. He blinked at me, then whispered, "They saw us first." Then he flatlined. Vitals gone. System reset. Tamber checked his suit logs. No signs of power loss, no toxins, just stopped. We started to evac. No more scanning, no more mapping. Whatever this was, we weren't trained for it. We hiked fast, staying tight, then the footsteps started. At first we thought it was Echo, ours bouncing off the cliffs. But the timing was wrong. Every time we stopped, they didn't. Every time we stepped, they doubled. Like we were being flanked by someone invisible wearing our boots. Tamber tried one last time to override the signal ghosting. He found a spike, direct line, 30 meters off our path, tucked in a natural alcove. He and I went to investigate. The rest kept eyes out. The alcove was shallow and dark. Inside, a clone helmet, standard issue. Faceless, ID plate scraped, no head. Next to it, a beacon transmitter, blinking slow, steady. Broadcasting CT-2209 active, holding position. I bent to shut it off, and as I touched it, I felt something cold in my glove. Then the air changed. Sound dropped, wind stopped, and behind me, I saw myself. Across the alcove, same armor, same stance, I swear it, no weapon. Just standing, helmet tilted, looking straight at me. I raised my rifle, and it mirrored the motion. Then the visor shimmered, like light passing through water, and it vanished. Gone. I pulled the beacon, we burned the helmet, and we got out. Didn't stop until the sky changed color behind us. Back at base, we filed our report. Command flagged it low priority. Said it was likely signal loop contamination from a pre-war array buried in the mountain, one of the old Republic ghost grids used to stress test clone comms. Never decommissioned properly. Said those old test beds could mimic IFF, even thermal, if the signal rebounded through enough terrain distortion. Tech babble. Didn't explain Brax, didn't explain the thing I saw in that cave, and it sure as hell didn't explain why, 2 days later, my helmet, my actual bucket, started showing a second user profile when I booted up. CT-2209. Shadow instance detected. Restart required. I did the restart, wiped the cache, and it was still there the next day. So I swapped helmets and never looked back. But sometimes, when the terrain gets steep and the wind carries too clean, I hear boots behind me, half a beat off. I love this job, except when I'm in a situation where something weird happens and no one can explain it. I don't mind the incomplete reports, the forgotten squads. That's war. Messy, fast, and easy to misplace. But those ancient artifacts, I hear those were the work of sworn enemies of the Jedi. I've seen Jedi take on entire battalions of droids and walk out breathing. You've got to be a special kind of crazy or powerful if you take them on. There was this old separatist mine site, abandoned early in the war, supposedly unstable, supposedly stripped. No intel suggested anything was left. Then a beacon went active. Republic signature, broadcasting from deep underground, weak pulse, repeating phrase, still here. So command sent us in. The entrance was collapsed, and we had to burn through 4 meters of rubble to reach the shaft. Inside, it was colder than outside. No airflow, like the mine had sealed itself shut. Standard tunnel layout at first. Ore tracks, pressure doors, dead terminals. Then, the architecture changed. Lower levels weren't separatists. Walls had been reinforced with black plating. Not durasteel, something rougher, older, obsidian maybe. Scored with strange carvings, nothing mechanical, just symbols, shut, looping, meant to be buried. Tamber said it wasn't on the map, neither was the beacon, but it was still calling. Ferric caught the first echo. He asked Brax to check his flank, and Brax replied, already did, before Ferric had spoken. We thought it was crosstalk. Then it happened again. I gave an order to form up and heard myself say it back. half a second too soon. My own voice bleeding through the comms before I'd opened my mouth. Brax looked at me and said, "Sir, are we looping?" We found the beacon at the bottom of the shaft, tucked in a chamber cut into the bedrock. Beacon sat on top, blinking soft red. But it wasn't powered. Ferric scanned it, no output. Then Tamba spotted the wall behind it. It looked like natural stone until he tapped it. Hollow. We burned through it. We shouldn't have, but we did. Behind that wall was another chamber. Perfect circle, no seams, no lights. Just a smooth pit in the center, maybe 3 meters wide. Shallow, lined with more of that dark metal. And at the bottom, a cube. Black, angled, floating. Didn't hum, it didn't glow, it just existed. I felt it in my teeth before I heard it, like pressure building behind your eyes. I told them not to touch it. Didn't matter though, because Brack stepped too close and his foot hit the edge of the pit. And then the lights went out. We were still broadcasting and our helmets were powered. Suits were green, but none of us could move. Comms cut to static. Gravity felt wrong. Ferric's voice came through, but it wasn't him. "Still here," it said. Then again, "Still here." Tamba tried to pull Brax back. He was frozen, eyes locked forward, suit shaking, but his feet wouldn't lift. We started hearing movement around the chamber. Not footsteps, mirrors. Every time I turned, I saw one of us, reflected wrong, standing in places we hadn't walked, poses we hadn't taken. I looked left and saw Ferric aiming, and I looked right and saw him still. One of them blinked, the other didn't. Then I heard myself say, "Fire." No one had spoken, but Brax's blaster went off into the dark. Tamba grabbed him, pulled him out, and we ran. Didn't look back, didn't shoot, didn't speak. We climbed for an hour and never reached the shaft. Time felt elastic. Some minutes dragging, some gone in a blink. We only knew we were out when the air changed. Warm again, dry, dust instead of pressure. We reached the exit, turned to seal it, and saw one last thing on the scanner. CT2209, my tag, still inside. They sent engineers in afterward, said it was an echo chamber. The beacon had fallen into a geologic frequency loop, an old seismic anomaly amplified by obsidian veins. Said the black stone was just exotic mineral, volcanic, known to scramble sensor signatures. As for the cube, it didn't show up on scans. Beacon stopped transmitting, chamber was collapsed. Sealing the mine, I still remember the way it felt. Not like we were in danger, not like we were being hunted, like we were standing in someone else's memory and it had just remembered us. Alright then, fancy another glass of Jawa juice? Gonna need more in my system to continue on. Can't believe they let us drink this in the mess hall. Oh, they don't? Well, never mind that then. Yeah, you, with the weird look on your face. You ever see a moon bleed? Not like red sky and screaming, I mean quiet. Where everything feels like it already happened and you're just walking over the outline of it. Yeah, that kind of bleeding. We were on some no-name moon. Don't ask me for coordinates, I wasn't sober then either. Mid-recon loop, little 3-day sweep, following up on some compings that turned out to be echo trash. Anyway, end of the second night, we crest this ridge, and there it is. The site. Gravesite. That's what we called it. Flat ground, middle of a crater valley, half-glass dirt. No structures, no sign of a fight. But there were helmets, rows of them. Clone buckets, phase 1 and 2 mixed. Some polished, some scorched, all clean. All facing the same direction. North maybe, whatever passed for north out there. 87 of them. No bodies, just helmets. Sitting on the dirt like someone had placed them there real careful. And not a single mark from shovels. No tracks, nothing disturbed the dust. Like the helmets had grown there. We radioed in. Command kicked it back. No records of engagements on the moon. Not even a drop history. Said we were misreading terrain artifacts. Terrain artifacts my ass. One of the boys, Hask, started walking the rows, counting, quiet. Came back and said, "Feels like they're watching us." We told him he was spooked, but we still didn't unpack near them. Set a camp Ridgeway, didn't sleep much. Next morning, one helmet had moved. Wasn't in the row anymore. It was turned, just a few degrees, but facing us. Nobody admitted to touching it, so we shifted our camp further back. And the next day, 2 more were turned. Still no wind, no animals, no prints. Just rows and rows of helmets, still and quiet. Except not quite the way we left them. We posted a watch that night, but it didn't help. Sentry swore nothing moved, nothing touched. But when the sun cracked the crater rim again, 5th row, 3rd in, gone. Helmet wasn't there, but its shape was pressed in the dirt, like it had been sitting heavy and then vanished. Hask stopped talking after that. He didn't eat, didn't sleep, he just sat and stared at the ridge. 3rd night, I had last watch. Saw a figure in the field. Thought it was Hask at first, same stance. But he was still curled in his bag, so I watched the figure. It didn't move, it didn't breathe, just stood between the helmet rows, still as a bone. I blinked, and it was gone. Nothing but helmets again, all of them in place, except the one closest to our camp. That one, it was looking straight up. Jedi were with us for pickup. General Koa, quiet type. Didn't say much until she saw the sight. Then she stopped walking and stared at it for a long time. We asked what it was, if this was some kind of burial. She didn't answer, just told us not to touch anything. Didn't even ask for a report, didn't ask what we saw. She just stood there and then whispered, "I think someone remembered them." And that was it. We left the moon an hour later, never got logged. Gravesite 12 is what we called it. Don't know who they were, don't know who put them there, but sometimes, late watch, eyes heavy, I swear I see that one helmet again, the one that looked up. Ugh, that one sobered me up good. Field hospitals always gave me the creeps, but there was this one time where I thought to myself, being dead would be better than being brought to a field hospital. Field hospitals weren't supposed to look like this. We'd been deployed to a cleanup after a separatist push. Standard forward operating base, med center, clone triage zone, supposed to be temporary, fast setup, faster evac. We lost contact 3 days before we got there. Command flagged it as a blackout, said the droids had shelled the perimeter, probably jammed long range. Said it would be a routine recovery. Routine. So we went in, 4 squads, low altitude, tight formation. We hit dirt outside the medical zone. Gun emplacements scorched, E-web mounts melted, no sentries, no movement. You could still smell the antiseptic under the ash. Inside though, there was still power. That was the first wrong thing. Base was dead, but the lights flickered. Medbay ceiling panels pulsed low red, life support active, and systems humming. But no one answered our hails, and the doors were open. We cleared the entry halls and passed the intake ward. The beds were empty, blankets folded, with no bodies and no gear. Not the kind of messy you'd expect from a retreat. This place had been cleaned, but fast, almost too fast. The floor still held drip trails, blood, we thought. Too red, but not enough. We then moved toward ICU, and that's where we found them. 3 troopers, Phase 2 armor, sitting up in their beds. No movement and no breathing either, but their vitals were green and they were hooked into machines, with masks on, plates still locked to their chests. One of them turned his head as we entered. He didn't blink and didn't speak, he just looked. Tamba tried to question them. Nothing. They followed motion, eyes tracking, but didn't flinch under light and didn't respond to ID scans. One of the medics scanned their blood work and got confused. He said it was too clean. How could it be too clean? No immune response, no clotting, no protein markers, like they were breathing perfect air. But they weren't breathing. We kept moving. I ordered 2 men to stay behind and monitor them. We swept the surgical wing and found more. 12 troopers, some lying flat, some strapped down. Some fused into the gurneys, metal plates welded to armor that had been peeled back like skin. We thought they were dead. Then one opened his eyes, like he was waking up from the wrong war. One of our boys, Jevon, leaned in and asked him what happened. The trooper whispered something. Jevon bent closer. The clone said, "They kept the pain. Everything else they took." Then he started bleeding. everywhere. Ears, nose, fingers, like someone had punctured his whole body from the inside. He died less than a minute later. We locked down the wing and we brought in our Jedi. He stood in the hallway a long time, didn't even cross the threshold. Said something was wrong with the ground. The ground. We asked what he meant, and he said the pain in the room wasn't residual, but it was still being felt. I went back to check the 3 from earlier, the ones that were sitting up. One was gone. No sign of movement, no trail, just an empty bed, and his armor, still sealed, sitting in the chair like someone had taken it off from the inside out. I picked up the helmet, blood inside, still warm. The medtech tried to log it, but the data became corrupted. He tried again, and it crashed his whole console. We pulled out 30 minutes later. Base was marked unfit for reuse. Jedi ordered a memory wipe for all field tech, called it a containment error, something about residual torment fields. Said the Seppies had used something older than tech to keep the wounded in place, something that remembered pain and refused to let go. Said the machines had learned to listen to it, to loop it. Only 2 of the survivors made it to a full debrief. The rest were sanctioned, medically unstable. One went silent. One tore out his own IV and tried to speak through a slit in his throat. The only word he could say was, "Stay." The base got sterilized 2 days later. Sometimes you still pick up a faint medical ping in that sector. It's not the dying that gets you, it's when the war keeps a part of you that's already gone and makes the rest keep bleeding. Anyways, we should head back now. I heard that we'll be flying to Utapau soon. Well, maybe we have time for a few more. Breathing room. Ironic. That's what the flight manifest called it. A cargo hauler, refit as a troop transport. Lights, life support, fresh air, until it all went wrong. We got the distress call just after light speed exit. Command sent us in. Quick sweep, secure survivors. But there were none. The transport shuttles landed and 5 squads including us poured through the ruptured bow, weapons up, scanning. First thing we saw were bodies. Clones everywhere, stacked in corners, slumped against walls, a few still half fused to blasted doors. Burn marks across the hull, blaster scoring on the walls, empty mags scattered like someone fought until the power cells burned dry. Blood trails led through the corridors, thick and frantic. Some streaked like they'd been dragged, others like they'd tried crawling back the way they came. And the smell, cooked circuitry, bile, ozone, like the whole ship had tried to choke itself before it hit the dirt. We moved fast, 3-man fire teams. 2 troopers held the ramp with repeaters, scanning every angle. The rest of us moved inward, but the dust wouldn't settle. It clung, thick and oily. We then hit the mess hall. Tables were flipped, rations were strewn, hollow tables were still flickering menus that never loaded. Then one of ours, a rookie named Ryu, stepped forward and jerked back with a scream. I ran over and he was clutching his throat, eyes wide, no air. "Something in my suit," he gasped. We ripped his helmet off. Inside, thin white tendrils crawling across his visor padding. Then, one of the downed troopers slumped against the wall, sat up and hissed. His face, eyes white, teeth bared, twisted in a silent snarl. Bile dropped from the corner of his mouth. He lunged. We shot him, point blank, and his body went limp, hit the floor with a wet thud. But the worms, they fell from the corpse, slithering toward Ryu. Ryu dropped to his knees, writhing, clutching at the worms biting his neck. We opened fire on the creatures, blaster bolts chopping them to bits, yet they kept coming. Command called a full retreat, and we backed out as corridors collapsed, alarms wailing. Then we found the bridge, glass dome shattered, view of the ruined planet below, control console still alive, and hollow screen showing flight logs uninterrupted until impact. Logs mentioned Geonosis parasite samples in cargo holds. Classified, no further explanation. That's when the hatch sealed behind us. Doors were locked and we were trapped. Behind us, shouts, something pounding on the bulkheads, armor scrap against steel, hisses. We tried comms, static. Then a voice, low and rasping, "Open me." One of ours, kin, eyes glazed, pressed against the hatch from outside. Spots of blood on his armor, he slid down, huddled against the door. "Brothers," he whispered, "they want us to join." We opened fire and screens flickered. Biocontainment breach, engaging lockdown. Oxygen alarms stuttered, air grew thin, our filters overloaded with spores. The world around me slowed, every breath a battle, every heartbeat a drum. We burned through energy cells to force open the hatch. Sparks flew, smoke. We were able to break through into the corridor and bodies were littered on the floor. We sprinted, went for the shuttle bay, doors sealed. Inside, one last craft sat, an escape pod. Cramped, just a single seat, too small for all of us. We dove in. Two squeezed in, others clambered into external launch cradles. Risky, but we had no choice. Inside, I strapped down. Ryu crawled in, pale and gasping. Beside him, the worms writhed, pressing against the viewport, sliding in on the hull. I hit eject and the engines groaned and then roared, crashing into flight and escaping the bay. Behind us, the ship shuddered, a final cascade of explosions, metal tearing, life support blowing out, a red flare of hull breach. We were clear though. Atmosphere burned off the windows, the planet rushing up. The ship didn't crash from an attack. It crashed because it was already dead. And sometimes the dead won't die easy. You heard about that Jedi who killed his own troops? Yeah, that happened in Megiddo. Terrible place. Well, my memories of Megiddo were somehow a bit different. Glass plains, torn bridges, scattered bones of a city that used to be proud. All of it covered in a frost that never melted. Cold enough to freeze the filters in your helmet if you stood still too long. We were there to finish the fight. The 212th had taken the northern causeway 3 days earlier. The push went well, tight formations, Jedi up front, nothing fancy. Seppies bailed halfway through, probably knew we were cracking their vault lines. After the assault, a Republic demolition team was sent to prep the bridge network for collapse. Standard op, lay charges, reroute footpaths, and get out. Then, they stopped reporting. Command figured frozen relay and sent us to check in. 6-man squad, tight gear loadouts, one pack with portable heaters, another with line anchors in case the ice gave. Bridge was still standing, mostly. It stretched out for clicks, massive durasteel bones locked in place by ancient pylons. Most of the surface had been glassed in the opening salvos. The rest was just frost and rebar. We moved single file, rifles up. The wind was constant, cutting sideways across our visors, whispering through the beams. That's when we saw the first one. Helmet. Just the helmet. Sitting in snow, face down, no body, no tracks. Timbre flipped it over. Visor was cracked, blood inside, frozen in a perfect web of red veins. Still no sign of the others, so we kept moving. Mid-span, we found the first relay point, cratered. Looked like something had hit it from below. Concrete spiderwebbed, chunks torn upward. Timbre looked confused. If this was sabotage, it's not Seppi style. Too messy? I asked. He shook his head. Too close. That's when the vibrations started, like someone knocking on the steel spine of the bridge 100 meters down. We paused. It stopped. Then it happened again. Closer. Something was feeling us move. We made it to the control shelter at the midpoint. Door half ripped off. Inside, heaters were still running with a generator blinking low. Gear was scattered, charge packs, tools, rifles. No signs of a firefight, like someone had walked away mid-task. Or ran. One of our boys picked up a datapad, tried to play the last recording. Just static, but then we heard some breathing and a whisper. Too deep. Then the file corrupted. We swept the next span, took it slow, laid fresh anchor points, and the frost got thicker. Then one of us, Dell, slipped. Boot hit a cracked beam, slid down the incline, vanished over the side. We rushed to the edge, found the tether, still anchored and still taut, and we pulled. Nothing. then some slack, and then his leg came up. Just the leg, frozen solid. We fell back to the shelter, set perimeter, heaters up, thermal scans down the shaft. Nothing. Then the vibrations came again. Closer. This time, they didn't stop when we stopped moving. They circled. Now, I've heard artillery, I've heard seismic tanks. I know the weight of heavy droids. This wasn't that. This was something under us, following heat, or noise, or blood, I don't know. That night, what passed for night in Megiddo anyway, we rotated watch. Crash was out first. 30 minutes in, his helmet lit up. "Something's moving," he whispered. "South span, big." Then static. We rushed out, found his rifle. No more Crash. Just a long trench carved through the frost, like something massive had surfaced for a second, grabbed him and gone back under. We fired into the hole, but we heard nothing. Timber at this point wanted to evac. No contact with command, no line out, just us and the thing under the ice. Next day, we planned to make a run for the vault lift, old separatist access tunnel a click east. We packed light and left the rest. I looked back once before we moved. It was eerie. We didn't stop, and we reached the vault entrance by nightfall. Found claw marks on the walls, chunks of rebar bent inward. Inside, blood frozen in lines along the stairs. One rifle jammed into a metal plate. Then we heard knocking, but not from below, from inside the walls, behind us. I don't remember much, just the cold, but it got super quiet when we stopped moving, like the thing had stopped breathing until we made another sound. Tamba brought us the last 20 meters. He turned, set charges, and waited. We didn't look back. We heard the blast and felt the floor shake. We never saw the thing. Command wrote it off as a collapse. Bridge wasn't safe, retrieval not viable. They never recovered the demo team. Didn't ask for our suits, didn't log Crash's signal when it blinked again 6 hours later. We left Megiddo with 3 men instead of 6. We don't talk about it much, but sometimes I feel that tremor again. That long, steady pressure, like the bridge is still beneath me, waiting. I don't scare easy, but this one was different. I felt like prey. There was a time where we were docked at a floating platform over a gas giant. Standard refuel, recharge, rotate out. Place was automated, just static lit consoles, warm lights, humming tanks. Good air though, better than most cruisers. They told us to sit tight for 6 hours while the system cycled through the resupply queue. No problem. We split up to stretch our legs. Deck crew got their helmets off. Few of us started brewing some calf. I posted one man, Green, to hold the hangar while the rest of us did systems checks. Green was a quiet sort, reliable, spent more time running maintenance routines than talking. The kind of clone you can trust. 2 hours later, we came back to relieve him. He was still at the door with his helmet on, but he didn't say anything. He didn't move when we walked up, he just stood there, hands resting on his carbine, eyes forward. I asked if he was alright. He nodded. That's when Koss, our slicer, said something wasn't right. Green's armor? It was clean. Too clean. We'd been on world for 3 weeks straight before docking. Dirt, burn-scorning heat stains, none of that was on his kit anymore. Looked like he came fresh out of Camino. Koss said he noticed something else. Green hadn't said a word since we docked, not one. We reviewed the hangar feed, 6 hours of footage. Green was standing at the door for most of it. But at hour 2:40, the feed cut out. Just one frame, white noise. Split second later, Green was standing a few feet to the left. Same stance, same helmet tilt, no motion recorded, no step taken. Like the system forgot where he was and pasted him back into the shot. We called him over. He came. Slow. Took 3 steps and then stopped. "Take off your lid," I said. He didn't. He didn't refuse, he just didn't move. Koss repeated it. Green said, "Helmet's fine." First words all day. Flat. Perfectly enunciated. Not his voice. A voice shaped to sound like ours. I stepped forward and grabbed his bucket. He didn't even try to stop me. He didn't twitch, didn't even blink. I pulled it off, and inside, No breath fog, no sweat, no flushed cheeks from pressure seal fatigue, just clean, dry, like no one had been breathing in there at all. Green stared ahead, didn't react to losing the helmet, eyes still, like someone had painted them open. Then he said, "Do you want me to say something else?" That's when Koss raised his rifle. I stopped him. We backed off. I tried radioing command, and no response, of course. The platform had slipped out of sync with our relay band. Koss tried manual override. We tried lockdown protocol. Green didn't stop us, just turned, walked back to the hangar door, and stood there, like before. Same position, same hands, helmet back on. We never even saw him move to pick it up. Hours passed. One of our men, Dren, said he saw Green walking the lower ring level, but he was still upstairs too. We checked the cams, 2 frames, and Green was in both. One still, one walking, exact same time code. At hour 7, evac was cleared, shuttle locked in. We prepped to move, and that's when Green spoke again. "I remember you. You wore red stripes on Camino. You cracked a joke about the alarms. You don't remember it, but I do." Now, just for context, I hadn't worn red stripes in 4 years, and I'm sure as hell Green wasn't part of my squad when I told that alarm joke. We boarded the shuttle, and Green didn't follow. As we lifted off, I looked down at the platform, and he was still standing there. Perfect posture, still holding his rifle, no motion, no breath, just waiting. Command said the platform had hosted an experimental predictive training system, Echo Model Neural Loop, pulled behavior patterns from real clones and used to simulate reaction time and squad tactics. It was shut down after 4 weeks, but the system didn't get the memo. One of the test banks just kept learning, kept listening. It just needed someone to walk in. When the stress of combat faded a bit, I remembered something. And the craziest part is, when the stress of combat faded a bit, I remembered something. Green died on Eriadu 2 weeks before that dock. He took 2 blaster bolts through his chest, and we buried him ourselves. I still don't know what was wearing his face, but sometimes, in quiet missions, dead freighters, silent bridges, I hear a voice on the internal loop. A question. Do you want me to say something else? We got the alert late. Small recon unit. 6 clones assigned to a comms node in the outer rim. Went dark mid-transmission. No contact, no follow-up, just gone. Command called it a relay malfunction. But I've seen relays fail before, and relays don't bleed. We dropped in at 0600, cold wind, thin dust, no fires and no signs of active conflict. The outpost itself was buried in a shallow ridge, half built into the rock. Entry hatch forced open. I took point. First thing we saw was the blood. The blood was everywhere. They were along the walls, down the corridors, like someone tried to drag themselves across the floor and didn't make it far. Then we saw the helmets, one in the mess hall, crushed like an empty canteen under a metal boot. Still had the comlink intact, transmission log frozen mid-sentence. Another was down the hall, split clean across the brow. Cutter found an arm in the stairwell, still in armor, fingers curled. We found the rest of him at the base of the security station, legs mangled, chest plate punched in like a soda crate. Rifle next to him, bent, literally bent. I've seen droids shoot, I've seen them snipe, flank and overwhelm, but this was like their programming had gone rogue. We cleared each level, found another clone in the server room, faceplate removed, mouth open, no tongue, head turned too far to be natural. Next to him, a pool of blood with boot skids through it, like someone tried to run and was dragged back in. Then, we found the survivor, Kano. He was under a collapsed bench in the medbay, legs shattered and ribs caved, faceplate half fused to his cheek from an energy strike. We didn't recognize him at first. He blinked once and then tried to speak. We stabilized him as best we could, painkillers, thermal wrap, pressure seals to stop the worst of it. His voice was shredded, half whispers through grit and blood. He said, "We surrendered. We stopped moving." He said it again. "We dropped our rifles, we knelt. They didn't care. According to Kano, the droids cornered them in the atrium after breaching the north door. No warning, just weapons down. So they dropped them, raised their hands. Kano said he was the first to kneel, but the B2s opened fire anyway. Not all of them used blasters either. Some just walked in, grabbed, swung, smashed. They used their arms, he rasped. Didn't even fire. Just beat us, like it was faster, like they were in a hurry to end us. He said one clone, Harvo, was still screaming 10 minutes after his leg was torn off. They threw him against the wall, like he was a toy. We stayed with Kano until the medevac arrived. He didn't make it past orbit, slipped out quiet, didn't scream once. We logged it, every piece, every name. Command said the droids may have been on aggression override, no distinction between armed and surrendering targets, said would flag it for protocol review. That was the end of it. Some folks talk about clean wars, precision strikes, surrender policies, conventions. Let me tell you something. When a droid decides you're not worth a bolt, it doesn't waste power, it uses metal. Ever been to the capital? It's beautiful over there. You literally touch the clouds. I was there once. Don't know if you've noticed, but I've been through a lot. Command thought that a trip to the capital might lift my spirits. While I was sitting at 79s, a few Coruscant guards showed up. They bought me a drink and wanted to hear stories from the front line. I obliged, of course, but I also got stories from them. One in particular I still think about from time to time. It was about level 1315. He wasn't on duty. Him and his partner were off roster. They decided to take the shortcut to the patrol depot. They went through a back access corridor that ran near the old industrial lifts. Abandoned shafts dating back to when the lower levels still processed their own water. They hear movement. Standard response. Isolate, flash check, confirmed. It's not a civilian, not a droid, but it's someone fast, wearing something patchy. Drops down into a stairwell access and disappears below. They give chase. 4 levels down, the lift signs stop lighting up. Level designations go from standard alphanumerics to chalk, literally chalked onto Durasteel walls, numbers, arrows. And then the noise changes. No more echo, just this thick, close feeling air. They find the runner 2 levels down from 1315. He's crouched in a service crawl. He doesn't fight and doesn't move, just whispers, "You found me, too late." They cuff him. But before they drag him back up, one of them decides to check the shaft the guy came from. Standard sweep. He goes down, torch flickers, doesn't come back up. The other clone, let's just call him Red, starts to worry. Calls it in. His comm sparks and then dies. He starts backtracking, and that's when the lights go out all at once, like someone turned off the sun. He raises his blaster, flicks the torch. It's at half strength, enough to see 10 meters, enough to see the runner still sitting there, still whispering. Only now, he's repeating, "He's coming, he's coming, he's coming." Then he bolts. Red hesitates, starts to follow. Just 3 steps, then he hears it. Not the runner, not his clone friend, something wet, just moving. Red gets one glimpse, just one. 2 red eyes. Something tall, legs bent backward, one hand dragging a Republic service droid by the neck. He runs, gets back to the last marked level, hits the call panel, and nothing happens. Then the lift door opens, and the other Coruscant guard is inside, with his helmet off, eyes open, just blank. He says he's in the system now. Then the doors close. Red climbs. He gets topside an hour later and collapses in front of the depot. They say he was hallucinating, heat stroke, fatigue, but the report never filed his friend as killed in action. And when Red checked out the next day, someone had cleared the access logs. 1315 doesn't exist on the patrol map anymore. That was the end of his story. He didn't ask what I thought, just finished his drink and left. Didn't even say goodbye. I've fought droids, fought worse, but something about that story still gives me the creeps, because clones don't scare easy, and that man, He didn't blink the whole time he told it, like he was still seeing those eyes, reflected in his own. It's always the hardest when we're not fighting droids. We were told the enemy wasn't droids this time. They were local militia, separatist aligned, trained, equipped, and committed. We were tired, half rations, mud up to the knees, 4 days straight with no sky and no sun, just jungle rot and plasma humidity. It felt like Geonosis without the heat, or Umbara without the light shows. Intel said the enemy had dug into the ridge above the supply lines, so we went in. Standard breach, smoke, 2 squads, 1 Jedi. He didn't speak much, didn't need to, didn't even tell us his name. Green blade, tall, pale robes stained halfway up the calves from the marching. We thought he was just quiet. The fighting started fast, suppressing fire from the tree line. Explosives buried shallow in the brush. We returned fire, flanked, pushed in. We saw faces, not masks, not plates, faces. We hit their outpost by nightfall, and they were cornered with no fallback. We told the Jedi we could hold them and force a surrender, let command sort it. He said nothing, just walked ahead. He looked like he wanted to end it. The first man he cut screamed long enough for us to hear twice. The second didn't make a sound, just dropped, arms severed from the elbow down. The third ran, got bisected mid-stride. His body didn't fall right, twisted like his spine had forgotten what it was for. They tried to surrender. One threw his rifle down, hands up, cried something in another language, maybe a plea, maybe a prayer. The Jedi cleaved through him like he was made of air. They weren't soldiers after that. They broke, ran and hid. But it didn't matter, because the blade didn't slow. We watched him cut down men who were already crawling. One tried to pull another away by the wrist. He lost the hand, then the other, then his head. Kalis vomited in his helmet. We all heard it. Cutter turned around, wouldn't fire another shot. I just froze, because for a second, I saw him looking back at us, like we weren't supposed to be there, like we weren't witnesses. After it was all said and done, there were no prisoners, no wounded, just limbs and blood, steam rising off carved open bodies and burned out bunkers. Back at the forward camp, none of us spoke. The Jedi sat down and meditated, like it had all been a sparring session, like it was normal. And then I remember thinking, what happens when someone says we're on the wrong side? Do we get the blade next? Well, we definitely have to go now. The transports are waiting for us. Hope you boys enjoyed the storytelling session. Next time, I want to hear your stories too. All squads, priority transmission, clearance level red. Execute order 66.